Okay. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Colorado Christian Conservative Political, aka CCC Political. I'm your host, Joe Hunt, and I'm joined by Casper Stockham. He's running for U.S. Congress, CD6, Colorado. That's Colorado's 6th Congressional District, and that's located in central Colorado. Correct me if I'm saying any of this wrong.
Right.
But it encompasses much of the eastern part of Denver, Aurora, metropolitan area.
Absolutely. So it covers, it's almost like a C in a way. It covers Commerce City, then it swings down into Aurora, and then it swings over into Highlands Ranch, Centennial and Highlands Ranch.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
And some of Brighton and Henderson,
Yes,
I think?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the southern parts, yes.
Okay. I Wikipedia'd it. I don't know how trustworthy Wikipedia
Right.
is. But listen, man, I'm honored that you would take the time out of your day to join
Oh,
us.
yeah, no, it's my pleasure.
And I'm new to the arena here, but it was a lot of the Democratic policy that it was encroaching on my life that really kind of activated me to get involved.
Yeah.
And I was already doing music and media, and I said, well, we'll just transition into politics.
I can relate to that.
I didn't know I would lose
All your friends.
so many followers coming out conservative. It's quite the thing, but
Yeah.
But I want to hear your story, and I heard a little bit before we sat down. What really sparked
Yeah.
you to get involved?
Yeah,
And
yeah. So Joe, I grew up in a very liberal, progressive household. By the time I was 17, I hated all things Republican and most things white.
wow,
And I didn't even know why. I just knew that that's the way it was.
right,
And I went into the military, went into the Air Force. And while I was in, it's funny, I was in this officer training program. But it allowed for minorities to be in the program with low grades.
okay,
This is something that the Carter administration put in place.
yeah,
And when Reagan took office, one of the first things his administration did was cut that program. And I'm like, man, see, those Republicans are always trying to take stuff away from us poor minority people.
right,
But what I realized is that they didn't take me out of the program. All they did was remove the safety net. So I had to get good grades like everybody else that was in the class, right? So I'm sitting
right.
next to a Latino, an Asian, a white, black, whatever. We all had to get the same grades. Otherwise, you're out.
right,
I was getting good grades, so
Yeah.
I was never removed from the program. But I still was mad because the Republicans were taking stuff away.
yeah,
But I was in class one day and I was fussing in my mind, I wasn't even listening to what was going on in class. And I'm saying, yeah, but you're still in class. Yeah, but you're still in class. You're not removed from class. I said, yeah, but. And after a while, I realized that even though a lot of these programs have good intentions, they typically don't have good results.
right,
So this program was a bad idea. We want our officers to be the sharpest, brightest people on the planet.
yes,
So this program allowed for that not to happen. Anyway, long story short, I became very conservative.
yeah,
So conservative, I couldn't vote for anybody. I was like, none of these clowns are conservative enough for me, right?
yeah,
And I'm at level 58, all right. So I've been out there a while.
okay,
And Dole was running. I'm like, please, Dole, give me a break. McCain and all these people, not even close. Even Bush. I'm like, Bush, no. But I had a chance meeting with Herman Cain. He came in town and bought everybody lunch. The 150 of us. He bought us lunch.
nice,
And he was talking about how important the 2012 election was. Oh my God, Joe, it's so important. We have to vote. We have to be involved. And I'm like, I am not voting for Romney.
right,
He's not conservative. He's what? All these,
shiesty businessman.
Yeah, I'm like, man, I'm not even interested. And of course, I wasn't voting for Obama because he was a Democrat and also not conservative. So at the end of the lunch, everybody's in line for a picture because it's Herman Cain, right? You got to take a picture, right? So I go up and take a picture, and I reach out to shake his hand, and he grabs my hand and he doesn't let go. He pulls me in and says, "Young man, we all have to vote."
Right.
I'm like, oh man. Herman Cain tells me I got to vote for Romney. So I hold my nose, vote for Romney. You know what happened? 10:30 our time, it was over.
Yep.
Wasn't even close.
Yep.
And that pissed me off.
Yeah.
Because now, just like you were saying, we're not involved, get involved,
Yeah.
and now the outcome isn't what I wanted. Oh no, I'm upset. now.
Fired you up.
I'm fired up now. I'm getting involved.
Yeah.
And Joe, what I found was I was looking around for somebody doing anything productive.
Yeah.
And I found a whole bunch of people doing absolutely nothing. They would meet, they would eat, they complain, and then they go home. And then the next month they meet again, they eat, they complain, then they go home. I'm like, aren't we going to do something? Are we going to
take action?
Take action.
Right.
Let's take this. I'm former military. I like, okay, you give me an objective, and we're going to make it happen, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I found an organization called the American Conservatives of Color with Derek Wilburn, and he was actually doing things. He was going in the community trying to make a difference. So I said, okay, let me join that organization. But that got me really in the political arena to where I knew politicians. I had Congress people's cell phone numbers. I was going to different meetings, and because of going to those meetings, they knew I was conservative, but I wasn't running for office or anything like that. But I had someone ask me from the party, to run for Congress. And I'm like, man, dude, I'm not a politician. I hate politicians. And I hate you for asking me about it, right? I'm not interested.
More of an activist at this point.
Right, activist, right? But, he started talking to my wife and I, and over time he kind of wore me down and said, okay, I'll do it. I'll run for Congress. So I ran for Congress in Denver twice. I ran against the Get twice. Didn't get any support from the state party. I got support from the local folks, the district folks, but not and the county folks, but not the state.
Okay.
But I currently hold the record for the most votes by any Republican in Denver. Currently,
wow.
I hold that record. Even though I lost, I still have the most votes. So fast forward to now. I live in Aurora.
Yeah.
But I ran in Denver. And people always ask, well, how can you, if you live in Aurora, how can you run in Denver? Well, for federal office, you don't have to live in the district to run. Okay. But you do have to live to serve. So had I won, I would have had to move. Okay. But that would not be a problem because I'd have been a sitting congressperson. Yeah. I can move anywhere I want, right? But when all this is going on, Mike Kaufman is in Aurora, and he's doing a pretty good job, and he's maintaining the seat, even though he's not on the same page as the president. Yeah. On some things, he was fairly conservative, so I wasn't really interested in going up against him. Yeah. But when Jason Crow beat him out this last election cycle, in my district, I'm like, uh-oh. Yeah. There's some opportunity there.
Yeah, and I did see, since that district was formed in '83, I think it was, it's actually been Republican.
It's been very strong Republican, but it's been changing. Yeah. It's a very diverse district. Right. And they have made they as Democrats have made serious inroads in that district. Yeah. To where now it's a toss-up. Right. It can be won by a Republican. Right. It can be won back by a Republican, and I believe that Republican's me. Yeah. But it also can, as we saw, it can be won by a Democrat.
Yeah. And I don't know the documentary, the Colorado Heist. I don't know if you've seen that. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard about it.
And it said that the politics climate changed in Colorado when a lot of money started coming behind Democratic people who were running. Yeah. And they started...
And even the local races, they were spending millions of dollars.
Small races. And it was almost like a strategic movement to really take control. Yes. And so I'm totally digging this grass movement that's happening right now, and it's waking up a sleeping majority, in my opinion. I don't have any numbers to back that claim up, but I feel like we are the majority. We're just not as loud, I would say.
Well, it depends on what you mean by the majority, because the Republican voter registration numbers are the lowest numbers of any major party. Really? Yeah. So the highest voter registration are unaffiliated voters. Okay. They're like 1.5 million. Okay. Then under that comes the Democrats at about 1.2 million. Yeah. And then we're at just over 1 million registered Republican voters. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So we've got some work to do. Yes. We have to do some serious outreach, and that's been my cry for the past 8 years. I've been saying this and talking to Republicans and say we have to do outreach. You cannot keep ignoring the Black and Hispanic communities and expecting that we're going to keep winning these elections. Right. And this last blue wave that came through proved us right, unfortunately. So now, even the seats like a Mike Kaufman, who had been there for 10 years. Yeah. 10 years.
Yeah. I got the numbers here.
He's been there for 10 years. Even he got he got beat out this last cycle.
Okay.
So yeah.
So what would your call to action be for bystanders or activists like myself who are just kind of getting into the game and have kind of felt this urge to get involved because of the policies that are...
Sure. So we can win this back, but we have to be involved in outreach, number one.
Yeah.
My campaign, the message of my campaign is empowerment.
Okay.
My goal is to empower families, empower communities, and empower our future.
Yeah.
So everything that I do is based around those three empowerment strategies.
Right.
But it also is based upon outreach. So I am in the community right now. Even when I'm not running, I'm doing this. So I'm in the community teaching youth how to get a job, keep a job, and excel at that job.
Nice.
We're also teaching individuals how to start businesses if they don't want a job.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if we're not empowering the individual citizens of that district, we're not doing anything better than the Democrats are doing, because they promise all kinds of stuff and deliver nothing.
Yeah.
Now, the Republicans don't promise anything and they don't deliver anything.
Okay, and then so I was reading through your site, and it said you're running because you're tired of the lying, cheating, stealing, backroom deals that seem to always exclude the inner city and rural communities.
Yeah.
Do you have like examples of those back? Is it similar to the gas bill that they just passed? How we blocked it down, and then they kind of went around us and did it in some kind of strategic way that it was almost the same bill, but...
Well, and that wasn't even a backroom deal. That was in our face. That was like right up front.
We don't care what you say. We're going to do it anyways.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about those deals, unfortunately, we don't hear about, that happen all the time. One of the latest things that my opponent is doing right now, Jason Crow, is he's attacking the ICE facility in Aurora.
Oh, man.
He's been doing that for months now.
Yeah.
He's been telling some things that are untrue. I'm not going to call them lies, but they're untruths about what's actually going on in that facility. First, he claimed that there were children in there that had mumps and measles and all this kind of stuff. There are no children in that facility.
Yeah.
There's only about 1,200 individuals in that facility, and out of that 1,200, very few of them are women, but there's no children.
Yeah.
Just 2 days ago, he had a press conference at the ICE detention facility. Again, him and the other three congressional Congress people, Diana DeGette, Ed Perlmutter, and Joe Neguse.
Okay.
So they were there at the ICE detention center, and they were saying stuff like, well, the women are not being treated properly in the facility. Well, that's not true either.
Right.
They said the women didn't have access to proper health care. Also not true.
Yeah.
They have, and the reason why I say it's not true, just this morning I got a call from a representative from that ICE detention center.
Yeah.
Because I asked them for some facts about what's going on. So this person called me, and we had a 20-minute conversation. And he told me, he said, you know, the health care that's provided to these folks, even though they're not U.S. citizens, is almost better than the health care that we have.
Right.
They have full-time medical staff there at the facility. It's very clean. It's very well managed. In fact, it's better managed than the federal facility that's right down the street.
Yeah.
So they are complaining about something that's not fixed in Aurora. Aurora is not the problem. If they don't like the way that a detention center in Aurora is run, then they need to go back to D.C. and fix it.
Yeah.
They are Congress people writing up laws and things like that, and policies that are controlling how ICE is run. ICE doesn't make any policy.
Yeah.
They just follow orders.
Right.
They're like the military.
Carrying out the orders.
Carrying out the orders that are being, and those orders come from Congress and the president and so forth. So the immigration policies that we currently are operating under were signed into law by Bill Clinton in the 90s. And Diana DeGette, who's been in Congress for 20-something years, she was a freshman congressperson when those bills were passed, that she signed off on. So the reason why so if they don't like how the ICE facility is run, it's because they signed it into law.
Yeah.
It's their fault. So now they're protesting the facility that they helped create.
Yeah. They're protesting their own policies.
Protesting their own policies. Joe, all they got to do is go back to D.C., roll up their sleeves, and fix the immigration system that they put in place.
Right. Okay, so I also wanted to go over I got some of your promises here, but the other thing I wanted to touch down on was your top 10 issues.
Yeah.
That's what I was really digging.
Yeah.
The first one, facilitate the reduction of homelessness.
Yeah.
By at least 90%.
Yeah.
And that one struck a nerve for me because I did homeless outreach for 3 years, once a week, as a nonprofit ministry.
Yeah.
And it is an epidemic. But the one thing I did notice down there was a lot of them were there by choice, and it was due to a drug problem.
Right.
And so I see in here part of your solution is tapping into current innovative work and solutions, right?
There are plenty of solutions down there, and some of the homeless shelters have been there for 100 years.
Right.
They actually know how to deal with the homeless problem.
Right.
The problem. So what I did was a couple years ago is I went. First thing I did was similar maybe to what you were talking about. Is I would go out and we'd feed the homeless and we'd provide clothing and all this stuff, right? Which is triage, and that's great.
Yeah.
But I also, at the same time, I went and talked to the directors of the different homeless shelters. So I talked to the director of the Samaritan House, and Jesus Saves, all those different shelters. And I said, what is your biggest problem?
Yeah.
And you would think that they would come back and say, well, we need more volunteers, we need more money, we need more food, whatever. They said the biggest problem, number one, government.
Wow.
Number one, city and state government.
Yeah.
Stopping them from doing more to solve the problem.
In the form of regulations,
In the form
permits.
Permits, regulations. One director said he spends half of his morning answering emails from the government about, well, why are you doing this or why are you doing that? He said if they weren't constantly trying to stop us, he could help 100 more families that day.
Wow.
That same day, he said, I could help 100 families today.
Yeah.
And they're stopping us. For example, just really quick example, the food trail. So the homeless shelter can't take food from a bake sale from a church.
Yeah.
Because there's no, you have to track that food all the way through the process. They have to make sure that the food comes from a verified source, and it was at the right temperature, and all these things all the way through the process.
Quality kitchen, type
right?
stuff. Yeah.
So these folks are digging in trash for food.
Wow.
But yet and still the homeless shelter can't go to a reliable church that they've been working with for 20, 30 years and take food from that church.
Yeah.
Because we don't know, the chain of distribution food is a problem for the government.
Right.
Not for the homeless people,
Yeah.
not for the church, and not for the homeless shelter. So just doing things like that, common sense things, and then there's churches, there's organizations that are working in the community to better the homeless problem. We just need to get government out of the way.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Of course, veterans was number 2 on your list.
Yeah.
Which, I think that should be number
I was
on everyone's top 10 list right there.
You would think, and my opponent Jason Crow is a former Army Ranger,
Right.
and I think the reason why he won, part of the reason why he won, is because people were like, he's a former Army Ranger. How can you go wrong? It's like
Off the back of that title
former
he
Army
won.
Ranger. Yeah, it's like, how can you go wrong? Well, he has done things very liberal and progressive that outstrip any title that he had in the Army. But when it comes to veterans, for example, veterans medical care, we have this new facility in Aurora that was over budget, is understaffed, and it also is serving half of what the old facility that's supposed to replace was serving. So it's like, how did that even happen? And it happened because of government oversight, supposedly, and they weren't properly overseeing it.
Yeah.
But the veterans medical situation is a simple problem. All we have to do is allow for the veteran, and by the way, Trump is already doing some of this, by the way.
Yeah.
Allow for the veteran to go to the closest medical facility to them and get treated. And then send the bill to Uncle Sam.
Love it.
We don't need more medical VA medical centers.
Yeah.
When you have to drive by 5 major hospitals just to get to the VA center.
And I hear they're limited in resource, they're limited in manpower.
Yeah.
I just hear horror stories.
Yeah. So now, because of Trump, this didn't happen under Obama nor Bush, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not a Republican Democrat issue. This is about policies, right?
Yeah.
So now with Trump, if a veteran goes to the VA hospital, if you go on a waiting list, you automatically can go at that same day. You go to another line, and now you can get certificate, if you will, to go get treated where you live.
Bam.
Same day.
Genius.
Same day.
Yeah, and that's, dude, I was tired of the same old politicians. I seen a businessman with his own money who couldn't be bought.
Right.
Now, his character was questionable, but I said, you know what, I'm going to give him a shot, and I don't regret it.
No. Same with me.
So jobs, facilitate jobs in the inner city, but I wanted to jump down to energy because we're so terrified in the gas and oil industry of Polis and his administration, his 2040 Go Green initiative. I mean, he sounds like AOC wanting to tear down buildings, and I'm terrified, man. We're having a battle now with ozone, and so where do you stand on?
Yeah, so I'm a fan of our energy industry here in Colorado. In fact, it's one of the largest industries we have. And without the industry, the energy industry in Colorado, we would not be seeing the prosperity that we're seeing all over the place.
Right.
We also have some pretty strict regulations on that industry, but it's working, or at least it was working. You know, so we have strict regulations. We're able to make it work. We're able to be prosperous, and we're able to export energy.
Yeah.
We can't export solar and wind. They can't be exported. You just use it, and either the wind blowing or it's not, the sun shining or it's not, and you can't export that.
Right.
So, trying to force the industry to go green, and that's even a crazy term because natural gas is pretty natural gas and coal, clean coal,
right.
Are
some
very
of the cleaner burning things as far as emissions, and
nuclear energy is probably the cleanest, right? But we can't even touch that, right?
Yeah.
So they're not about going green; they're about controlling the narrative.
That's how I felt.
Yeah, and they're about forcing us into some type of utopia that they see that just doesn't exist.
I'm seeing it in San Francisco. I'm seeing it in Portland, Oregon. It's not a utopia.
Right.
It's almost a creation of two classes, rich and poor.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Jobs and no jobs.
Right.
Let's legalize drugs, which shrooms made it. Yeah. Marijuana already made it.
Yeah.
And coming from a kid from the streets, I grew up in Commerce City. Those drugs they're not good for you, man. You lose motivation, you lose incentive, and they really take away the God-given spirit we were given, man.
They don't produce.
Yeah. And produce fruit. Yeah, that's
exactly. They don't produce fruit.
And I know, coming in from the fossil fuel industry, we spent like $42 million on one of the units to reduce benzene and gasoline. We brought no profit.
Yeah.
And stories like that where we've had to throw money at regulations. Yeah. And so I think of Obama's magic wand speech, and to us, who kind of have understanding of economy, and it's not magic, it's common sense. You deregulate.
Exactly. Cut down regulation, and you'd be surprised the ingenuity that starts to pop up. And just like fracking's been around since the 80s or whatever, and now the technology is so refined now. Most of the site, and I haven't taken a physical tour of fracking sites, but I have seen countless videos. I've been in on different briefings and so forth of the fracking process. And after a site is fracked, you really almost can't even tell that it's a fracked site. They have a couple.
I read a study that they leave them better in better condition than when they started, as far as planting trees and such.
But the narrative is such that they have people scared about fracking. And the biggest cases they bring up, which is bizarre, was there was an explosion in a house. Actually, I think it was.
That's right. A couple years ago in Erie, not Erie, but Firestone.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the company that also does fracking I believe, was a company that did the piping or something like that. But it wasn't because of fracking. It
was a separate issue.
It was a totally separate issue, but they linked it all
gas
together.
Line installation, I think. It was a bad weld or something.
Totally separate from fracking. So
but they use fear-mongering. The world's going to end. Planet's going to end.
Which is what they do with everything. They do it with immigration.
Yeah.
Jason Crow put out a statement after Trump said they were going to be ice roundups or whatever they called it.
Right.
Jason Crow put out a statement saying, hey, you don't have to answer your door. This is what you have a right to an attorney and all this stuff.
Yeah, that's got to be illegal. I mean, I seen Pelosi did it. I seen AOC did it. Quite a few of them were doing it.
So they really skirted the line on it. It was legal, but just barely.
Wow.
So, but the reason why they did it was a scare tactic.
Yeah.
So, the person I talked to at the ICE Detention Center just this morning, he said that out of the first of all, there's only like 2,000 nationwide that they were even looking for.
Yeah.
These are people who have decided not to go to court.
Basically, warrants for their arrest.
Warrants for the arrest.
On the run,
right.
illegally, yeah.
Exactly. There's only about 2,000 of those folks. There's only about 5 in Colorado that they were looking for.
Wow.
So it wasn't like this big roundup. People didn't have to hide.
But they
in
used
their
it
homes.
as a fear tactic, as usual.
Fear tactic.
Okay. Before I move on, I just want to. So you're a friend of fossil fuels?
I'm a friend of fossil fuels.
I think our CEO was saying we bring like 2.2 billion of tax revenue to Colorado. We employ over 5,000, and that's not contracting. So it would devastate our economy.
I'm a friend of fossil fuels. I'm not opposed to wind and solar, but
Right. I don't want you to condemn that, but I just want
no way that they're going to take over the industry because
Right.
We don't have enough wind nor enough sun to take over. Plus, we can't export it.
A healthy combination of both. So, education, obviously, huge.
Choice. It's all about choice.
Yeah. And that's homeschooling, private.
Yeah, I tell people, look, if you can, homeschool.
Yeah, right.
That's the first choice.
Yeah.
And then if you can't, because a lot of people in the inner city don't have that option because they're working, maybe it's a single parent home, they can't homeschool.
Right.
So they need a voucher system that will allow for transportation that's included in the voucher system.
Okay.
So right now, that's really not a part of it. If you're a two-family home, if you are a two-parent home, more than likely both are working.
Right.
More than likely you have 1 to 2 cars, so you can figure out how one takes the kids to school, the other one picks them up, or whatever. You can figure it out. But if you're a single family home, single parent home, you don't have that option.
Right.
So we need some kind of a transportation voucher built into the vouchers, so you can now put your kid on Access-a-Ride or on the bus system to get them to and from the school. So you can choose the school.
I like that.
Private schools are growing. Charter schools are growing.
Yeah.
But they're trying to stifle charter schools now.
Yeah.
And the public school system is failing. I think it's like 40% of the kids, only 40% actually graduate from public schools.
Wow.
It's a very low number.
Yeah.
So that should tell us that they're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Right? But the charter school graduation numbers are much higher.
Yeah.
And the homeschool numbers are off the chain, right?
Yeah.
So
what would you say to the people who argue that charter schools are designed for profit as opposed to actually educating and enriching a kid's life? Because I've heard that argument, and I've yet to do the actual studies, but I know...
Well, they're not designed for profit, Joe, because they operate off of less money than the public school system does. Let me give you an example. So, a public school system, they don't have to use the money coming in for the facility. In other words, the facility is paid for by their, the school board or the local district.
Privately funded.
No, it's not. It's publicly funded. In other words, it comes from the tax revenues from the state. From the city. That's the public school system. The charter school system, there is X amount of dollars per student that is available. I want to say $2,500. I'm not sure on that number, but it's a number. It's a fixed number. The charter school has to take that $2,500, buy the building or lease the building, and all the materials and everything else, plus pay teachers just to have a charter school.
Yeah.
The public school system only has to use that the same amount of money, but the public school system only has to use that money for teacher salaries and classroom materials.
Right. They don't have much overhead as opposed to...
They don't have the overhead of the building and all that stuff.
Okay.
So charter schools are doing more with less.
And I know I had our kids in there for 4 years. It was great. I felt like it was smaller classes, more attentive.
Yeah.
So but I've heard the argument. I wanted to ask kind of where you were on that.
It's not true.
Yeah. So we're approaching our half hour, and I don't want to go through the whole list, but I do want to ask you how we can help you, and then I want to give you an opportunity to share your heart's message, but also share your platforms where people can follow you and so forth.
So I don't operate like a typical politician, and hopefully it comes across with you and others. I'm not just trying to answer questions just to make you happy.
Right.
I'm just telling you what's in my heart.
Yeah.
Right.
And by the way, this is the first time we've met. I got a hold of him on Facebook. I said, come on the podcast. We just met today. Humble guy. Anyways, continue.
I appreciate
I
that.
can vouch for you.
So this 2020 election cycle, especially in CD6, is going to be very important. It's going to tell the narrative for the next 10 or so years. The reason why I say that, and it's not because I'm anybody special, it's because that's a very diverse district.
Yeah.
The Republicans lost it.
Yeah.
And in order for us to get it back, we have to do outreach.
Yeah.
There are very few, if any, Republicans doing outreach. I'm the only one really that's doing outreach to the level I'm doing it. So people can check me out. They can see how sincere I am or whatever on Facebook. We have Casper for Colorado on Facebook.
Okay.
I'm on Twitter, on Instagram, and all that stuff. We have a team that we're putting together. And over the next 90 days or so, I'm going to be training up, Joe, 100 volunteers.
Okay.
Because I have a 4-hour workshop, another thing that politicians don't have. I have a 4-hour workshop to train people on outreach.
Nice.
'Cause I've been doing it for 8 years, so I said, you know what? Let me put a workshop together so I can train up the volunteers before we hit the street, because we're not good at outreach.
Right.
Now, the Democrats are phenomenal at outreach. And in fact, they're outreaching right now. They don't wait for the candidate to show up.
Right.
What they do is they outreach on issues.
Yeah.
Like they'll outreach and scare everybody about the immigration issue.
Right.
And they'll outreach and talk about, I'm trying to think of another wedge issue that they'll talk about. And so when the candidate gets there, all the candidate have to do is put that issue on their literature, and the community is already softened up to them.
Right.
That's how they do it. How we do it is we wait 90 days before the election.
Yeah.
And we say, oh my God, we got to do outreach. We got to reach into the black community. And the black community is like, dude, we've been here for all
Too late, buddy.
It's too late. I've already signed up with your with your opponent because he or she has been here the whole time.
Right.
So we need to be in the community, visible. It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
We're going to get some stares and all the evil things going on.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we have to be there, Joe. We have to be consistently there. And we have to be having these tough conversations.
Yeah.
And that's what my workshop does. I teach volunteers how to have a conversation without causing conflict.
Yeah. And that seems to be kind of the climate, the identity,
Identity politics.
Identity politics, right?
Yeah.
Where
we even do that wrong.
Yeah.
We do that wrong because, see, the Democrats use identity politics to separate and then control.
Yeah.
In other words, they get the black community all riled up about Trump's racist, right? And the black community says, I'm not going to vote for a racist, and they got them all controlled. And they go to the Hispanic community and say he just wants to deport all, everybody, right? So they get them all riled up.
Yeah.
They go to the LGBTQ community and say, Trump is homophobic and da 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 da.
Right. Xenophobe, whatever.
Xenophobe, right?
Yeah.
So they identify these different groups and separate them and then speak to them.
Right.
What we should do is find people like yourself, find LGBTQ people who are conservative, and then bring them in. Okay. Find blacks who are conservative, bring them in. Okay. Find Hispanics who are conservative, bring them in. Asians, whatever. Bring us all together. Yeah. And then that's how we grow the party.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So it looks like we've reached our half-hour mark, guys. I will give you an opportunity, because we're still recording vocally, to share that heart's message to the people listening, and your call to action. Yeah,
it's a simple message. My message is one of empowerment, empowering families, communities, and our future. If we do that well, and we do outreach well, we will win CD6 back. So they can go to my website. It's Casper for Colorado. It's the word for, F-O-R, Colorado.com. We're looking for volunteers. We're looking for more team members. We're going to have a big campaign kickoff event on the 3rd of August, here in a couple weeks. So you're welcome to come out. It's a free event. Just come on out and check us out. I'm going to introduce the community to the team. Okay. And then we're going to be off and running. So I really appreciate the opportunity, Joe.
Awesome, man. Count me in however I can help, brother. Right. I want to join the movement. Right. I do not like where Democratic policy is taking Colorado. Sure. And so I'm in the game, man. But listen, everybody, thank you guys for joining us on this edition of CCC Political. Until the next time, God bless you and God bless America.